So if you're new to this series, in part 1 we covered small cars, in part 2 we covered medium to like large-ish kind of cars. This week we're covering off small-ish to medium-ish SUVs, which might possibly be the most popular segment of cars going right now. Therefore, because they're so popular, for under $10,000 there are loads of options to choose from. But just like the previous episodes, we're taking into account the cost of maintenance, reliability, safety, practicality, plus they have to be relatively enjoyable to drive and have a bit of a cool factor about them as well. Also, so we don't alienate the majority of our audience, we've tried to keep everything that we've selected as internationally and as readily available as possible. But kicking things off, and like last week we're going in size order again, smallest to largest, it's the Toyota RAV4. While $10,000 should easily get you into a really good condition first generation or 1995 to 2000 RAV4, which yes is very retro cool these days, especially in the 3-door, they are feeling their age and the levels of safety do leave a lot to be desired. So instead, we'd be looking into either low kilometre, higher spec and excellent condition 2001 to 2005 second generation RAV4s in either the more practical 5-door or the funkier and cooler 3-door, or higher kilometre, lower spec and let's say interesting condition, but newer, larger and safer 2006 to 2012 third generation RAV4s. While the second generation RAV4 is now in the 20-year-old category, at this price point there are plenty of examples out there in excellent condition with well under 200,000 kilometres on them. So while the levels of tech and safety they are aging, the car itself should have plenty of life left in it. However, these do come with a warning. This second generation RAV4 is available with either a 2-litre or 2.4-litre engine, and while both are regarded as incredibly reliable, there are plenty of these with well over 300,000 kilometres on them still running strong. Plenty of owners of the 2.4-litre engined RAV4s have complained about excessive oil consumption. It is a known issue that Toyota resolved around about 2007 with the introduction of the third generation RAV4. And speaking of that third generation RAV4, while the first and second generations sat comfortably in the compact SUV category, it's the third gen that really put on some size. If you require more space and practicality, maybe this is the RAV for you. Most of the examples at this price point will be showing north of 200,000 kilometres, but with a solid service history and at least some care and attention, the RAV should just keep trucking along for many years to come. But aside from the mechanicals, how much cosmetic wear and tear you're willing to tolerate will be totally up to you. Plus in this generation, with some serious hunting and haggling, you might even be able to get yourself behind the wheel of one of the celebrated V6 models, but these do get snapped up incredibly quickly on the used market. We've actually made a full review video on this third generation RAV4, and our test car happened to be one of these 6-cylinder models. So for all the details, watch the video up here or check out ReDriven.com for the full cheat sheet. Next up, it is the Mitsubishi ASX, or maybe it's the RVR, or maybe it's the Outlander Sport. Even though the ASX was released back in 2010, amazingly, this thing is technically still a current model. However, don't get your hopes up, forget buying a new one. For $10,000, you're going to be looking at 2010 to 2013 models, unless it's been stolen and you're dabbling in the can of worms that is the proceeds of crime. But don't go doing that. Anyway, generally speaking, Mitsubishi's small-ish to medium-ish SUV is a solid little nugget of a thing. We do say generally because while the ASX is regarded as being reliable, the build quality can vary pretty dramatically. Most owners tend to adore their ASX, but there are a minority out there that have despised their ownership experience. Hence why it's so important to do your homework before we buy. And we've made that process super easy by making the ultimate used car buyer's guide up here. The ASX has received 4 main updates over the years, each bringing with it more equipment and features. But even from launch, the amount of stuff that you get for what you pay was excellent. And while they might not be the most exciting SUV to drive or even own, at this price, they are more than worth a look. And if you want far more ASX details, we've made a full review video. It's just up here. Okay, next up, it is the Subaru Forester, but it comes with a warning. There's so much to love about the Forester. Subaru's excellent and safe symmetrical all-wheel drive system, that unique boxer engine soundtrack, the practicality, the fact that Subarus somehow have this kind of unique character, being almost European in feel, but clearly Japanese in build quality. Actually, on that build quality, for this budget, you're going to be looking at predominantly second generation 2003 to 2008, the full review for which is up here, or third generation 2009 to 2013 Foresters, which despite what the internet says, generally have a good reputation for reliability. But here come the warnings. Firstly, head gasket issues with the second generation and earlier third generation Forester, meaning any fitted with the 2.5 litre EJ25 motor. Look, yes, head gasket issues can occur, but in saying that, there are plenty of owners out there that have never had a drama. These head gasket failures will be far more prevalent on cars that have been driven hard, for example, tuned turbocharged examples, or cars that haven't been maintained correctly. But the good news is, more recent examples are less susceptible to problems, and once that head gasket issue is fixed, if the car has been looked after, serviced and maintained afterwards, chances are it shouldn't happen again. And even better news, there are quite a few second-gen Foresters on the used market that have been repaired and should run near perfectly for years to come. But what about that later third generation? We're then most likely referring to the FB25, which is arguably a more complex situation than the earlier EJ25 Foresters. The most common complaint here is oil consumption, which in some markets resulted in a class action lawsuit. But again, like the head gaskets, there are plenty of owners out there that have never had a problem. Look, basically stick to the lowest possible kilometre example, make sure it has a full and thorough service history, do your best to find out if the car has been used off-road or for street racing or abused in any way, and make sure it's in excellent condition, and most importantly, have a full pre-purchase inspection carried out, and you should be right. Look, don't get us wrong, the Forester isn't perfect, but no car is. But there is a reason that so many of these are still on our roads and generally loved by their owners. Okay, next up, it's the Honda CR-V. Okay, yes, there are first generation 1997 to 2001 CR-Vs on the used market for this budget. And yes, they are a cracking little thing, but in terms of safety and equipment, they are lacking these days. Hence why we'd be steering you towards either the 2002 to 2006 second generation or the 2007 to 2012 third generation, both of which feature Honda's now almost legendary K24 power plant. This 2.4 litre is an absolute weapon in terms of reliability, hence why it's commonly used in various motorsport applications. Therefore, it should be just fine lugging you and your friends and family all over the countryside. Obviously, the newer third generation CR-V is larger, more refined, fitted with better safety equipment, more modern tech and features, and is a more resolved package overall. But personally, I have such a soft spot for the second generation car. Sure, it's a little rougher around the edges, but for $10,000, you can get yourself into the more premium examples, or save yourself a few grand and get an older and more used generation too, because chances are it's still going to be ultra reliable. Now, we would love to feature a first, second or third generation CR-V here on ReDriven. So if you live in Sydney or Newcastle or somewhere close and you'd be happy for us to film your car, can you let us know in the comments or message us on Instagram, because yeah, we would love to feature one. Oh, also guys, to make more content for you, we just simply need more subscribers. So if you haven't already, can you please hit that subscribe button and maybe share ReDriven with your mates and maybe threaten to hurt them if they don't subscribe? That'd be awesome. Okay, finally, the largest SUV for this particular category, it's the Nissan X-Trail. Now, again, like the previous SUVs mentioned, there are earlier first generation or T30 X-Trails available at this price point. And yes, there are some really good ones out there, but a few mechanical gremlins are really beginning to show. And for similar money, the second generation or T31 from 2007 to 2013 offers a more refined version of what made the X-Trail so appealing in the first place. That boxy, tough shape, superb levels of practicality, in four-wheel drive form, very decent off-roading chops, but rarely at the cost of on-road manners, great levels of equipment, good safety, and solid reliability. Although there are a few head gasket issues and you probably want to avoid the diesel models. But with so much of its competition trying so hard to feel as car-like as possible, the X-Trail seems to be proud of the fact that it's just a solid SUV. Now look, I know this video has been jam-packed with links up here, but we have made a full review video and a full cheat sheet on the T31 X-Trail. So for more information, yeah, you guessed it, click up here. Also, to make these links far more manageable, we've put them down there somewhere as well. So if you're new to the, good start, which might quote, voice is gone. They're down in the description as well. Description, why can't I say the word description, Cal? Now look, I know this video has been jam-packed with, links up here, but yeah, fuck me, mate. Now next week it's going to be the top 5 large SUVs slash proper, fuck me, mate. Now next week we're going to be doing larger SUVs slash proper, fuck me, dude. For this budget, you're going to be, oh my. Now next week we're going to be doing top 5 large SUVs slash proper four-wheel drives under $10,000. What do you think should make the list? Let us know in the comments below. See you next week.